Hello and welcome back to another episode of Jimmy Skull 68. Vikings win again. They get it done in London, beating the New York Jets 23-17. This game started out kind of like a blowout for the Vikings. The Vikings went up 17-0 midway through the second quarter. The Jets scored a late touchdown at the end of right before half to cut the score to 17-7. And the game just slowly trickled on, pretty boring, a gritty, just grind of a football game. Nothing crazy, nothing too special occurred in the game. The Van Ginkel pick six was awesome, but for the Vikings, not the greatest type of win you want, but again, a win is a win, and that's all that matters. The Vikings had a lot of penalties. Sam Darnold had a bad interception. Special teams outside of Reichard looked horrible. Definitely things to work on and that need to be fixed. The offensive play calling just seemed to be consisting of forcing the ball to Jefferson and Addison. Nobody else was getting targets on the offense other than those two, and Sam Darnold had a completion percentage below 50%. So definitely lots of negatives. Positives, our defense is legit. I think Aaron Rodgers is a bum. You could just see his body language the entire game. All he does is bitch and moan. And sorry, I'm trying to stop cussing on this podcast. So my fault. But Aaron Rodgers, just his body language on the sideline after he makes a bad throw, it looks like he's just looking for a reason to get mad at somebody else rather than take full responsibility for his gaffes and mistakes, which I think is not what you want from your quarterback, who's supposed to be your leader of men, the leader of the team, the guy. Like when you have an NFL team and you think of the team, usually when you picture like the Patriots, you think Tom Brady. I know that's definitely not applicable any longer, but you know what I mean. Like if you think the Niners, Brock Purdy, like you think the quarterback. So when you think the Jets, you think Aaron Rodgers, and when you see a guy like him at his age acting like a baby rookie or whatever, it's kind of funny. But these are things I always knew about Aaron Rodgers. He's a crappy teammate. He's a horrible human being. I don't care that I'm shredding this guy to pieces right now on my own podcast. He deserves every bit of it. Screw him. And he deserves the L. I like Garrett Wilson, though. And I do like Sauce Gardner. I do like most of the Jets. The only Jet I really don't like is Aaron Rodgers. And he does not have long left in the league. But again, this podcast is not about the Jets. But sometimes it is about hating Aaron Rodgers. But anyways, the Vikings had 11 penalties. A really glaring one, the one that you think about, is the roughing the kicker on that fourth down in the third quarter that kind of extended the Jets' drive, allowed them to go kick a field goal. I can't remember who committed the penalty, but I mean, I hate to be one to go and say the refs were the reason for something or another, but I think looking at the replay, that looked more like the 5-yard penalty rather than the 15-yard penalty version of the roughing the kicker. It looked more like running into the kicker than roughing, but it is what it is now. Also, Caleb Evans as a punt gunner needs to be ended. I've watched a bunch of Vikings talk shows, and they've all been saying this, so I'm not trying to sound like a broken record here, but I would have said this irregardless of that. Him getting ran into Brandon Powell, almost forcing a muff. Thank God it hit the Jet before it hit the Viking, so the ball was down to where it was. That would have been a disaster at that point in the game. I just don't like seeing that. I don't know. I just feel like there's got to be somebody else on the roster that can punt gun and not do those boneheaded things. And then our punt coverage in general, right before halftime, the Vikings were up 17-0 with about 2 minutes left. And then Ryan Wright actually hit a good boot and booted it well. And I don't even know the Jets punt returner, but he returned the ball all the way to like the 30. He was punting out of his own end zone, but it's just like things like that. The third phase of football is where a lot of teams struggle and a lot of teams end up losing because of that. And it's fixable. It's fixable, but you know what? The one thing I will say positive, though, is that at least our special teams woes do not come from our kicker. Will Reichard, give him all the gold stars. He deserves all the credit. He's a damn good kicker and a damn good football player. He's slowly and surely turning into one of my favorite players. But what I will say, Vikings fans, is he's not gonna he's not gonna have a perfect season. Maybe he will, but odds are he won't. So when he does miss, which will happen in his career, cut the kid some slack. He's 22 years old, just got out of college. He's been really good for the Vikings. Guy deserves a little bit of slack. But hey, the Vikes are 5-0. I cannot complain. I can nitpick, though, and that's what I'm doing in this video, because there are things we can improve upon. We're going into the bye this week, so it'll be nice. I'll be able to just sit and watch Red Zone. I won't have to stress my ass off anymore. Okay, I'm cussing again. I'm trying to cut that out. Well, they say ass on ESPN, so maybe that's not as bad. Anyways, also, I'm not doing the champagne bottle because I'm sick. So, just thought of that. I meant to open the video with that, but I kind of just got right into things. But, yeah, the Vikings had 11 penalties for 80 yards. Not good. We've been pretty good about penalties this year until that game. Excuse me. Aaron Jones also went out with an injury midway through the second quarter. Was ruled out thereafter. I've been seeing things that it's great that we have the bye week next week, so that just gives him an extra week. Gives Hawkinson an extra week. Hawkinson coming back is going to be huge. So it just gives us that flexibility that, he can take his time on his return from injury. But we play the Lions after the bye week. That's going to be a very, very tough game for the Vikings. A very, very tough game. It is in Minnesota. I'm curious to see where Vegas puts the line. But I will say, we're going to have to play better than what we did on Sunday to beat the Lions. We're not going to be able to... the Jets have a much better defense than the Lions, but the Lions' offense is going to come to play. They have some studs, and Jared Goff is looking good. I hate the Lions, but I'm going to call it what it is. Unbiased, the Lions are looking like a really good team and a threat. The NFC North in general is just a tough conference right now, and I hate it. I miss when the Lions sucked and the Bears sucked, and it was just the Vikings and the Packers. But you know what? Everybody's got to be good now. Everybody is eating. And the Vikings are hanging on to their undefeated season. The Chiefs play tonight, so it would be really funny if the Chiefs lost, even though I don't really care if they do or not. But if they did, then there'd be one 5-0 team remaining in the league. And yeah, I didn't think... Well, you know what? Since I made this podcast, we're 5-0. I'm undefeated with this podcast. So, you know what? Maybe I'm the lucky charm that this team needed. But... you never know. But a long, long season to go. There's a lot of time left, and anything can happen. Sam Darnold's just, we got to make some adjustments after that game. That was not a good game for Sam Darnold. No touchdowns, 1 interception, under 40% completion percentage on 31 attempts, or under 50%. That's not going to cut it. Jefferson, only 6 receptions, targeted like 13 times. That's not going to cut it either. I kind of pinned this on O'Connell and Darnold at the same time. The play calls just seemed like a bunch of deep bombs. It seemed like Sam had time to throw. Our O-line played well, and he just wasn't going through his progressions. And you know what? I hope Sam Darnold isn't going to revert, but I don't think he will. I think it's every quarterback's had one bad game. I mean, it's just true. And, look, Joe Burrow can barely get a fucking win. Oh, my God, dude. Sorry. Did not mean to cuss. We're cutting down on it in this channel. I want to be kid-friendly. But, yeah, Sam's going to have to get better. But probably going to make another video later this week. Don't know what it's going to be on yet. Just a little bye-week zen moment or something. But yeah, hey, the Vikes pulled it out. The defense looked great. Let me go on some of the positives. I've been on the negatives, but the corners looked great. Shaq Griffin looked great. Stephon Gilmore, clutch pick. Andrew Van Ginkel, that pick 6 was beautiful. I mean, that's his second on the year. He is a stud. One of my buddies who's a Dolphins fan told me he had one last year. So, boy's just, I guess, a pick six machine. Harrison Smith looking great as usual. Had a sack and a few great tackles in that game. Cam Beasley-Bynum, another interception. Love to see that. Just prayers up, Aaron Jones, get healthy. But yeah, that's the end of the podcast. Just, woo, that was way more of a nail biter than it really should have been. Aaron Rodgers is still a certified bum and loser, and I hate him with a capital H, a capital A, a capital T, and a capital E, and an extra capital D. But yeah, Skull Vikes on to the bye week. I'll see you guys soon. Cheers.